Milan, located in the northern region of Italy, is a dynamic metropolis renowned for its blend of rich historical heritage and modern innovation. Known as one of the world's fashion capitals, Milan is home to top-tier design studios, luxury boutiques, and major fashion events such as Milan Fashion Week. Historically, the city boasts stunning architecture, including the iconic Gothic Duomo di Milano, the historic Sforza Castle, and Leonardo da Vinci's masterpiece, The Last Supper, housed in the Santa Maria delle Grazie. These landmarks reflect Milan's deep-rooted cultural and artistic legacy. Today, Milan is also a leading financial and business hub in Europe, with a thriving economy that attracts international investors and entrepreneurs. Its modern skyline, bustling business districts, and efficient transportation network support a vibrant urban life that seamlessly merges commerce, culture, and innovation. In addition to its business and fashion prominence, Milan offers a lively cultural scene with world-class museums, theaters, and culinary delights. From traditional Italian cuisine in charming trattorias to contemporary dining experiences, the city caters to a wide range of tastes and lifestyles. Overall, Milan represents a perfect fusion of tradition and progress, a city where centuries-old art and architecture coexist with cutting-edge design and business innovation, making it a must-visit destination for travelers and a pivotal center for global culture and commerce. Italian Milano city in northern Italy, regional capital of Lombardy, the largest city in Italy by urban population and the second most populous city proper in Italy after Rome. The city proper has a population of about 1.4 million, while its metropolitan city has 3.22 million residents. The urban area of Milan is the fourth most populous in the EU with 6.17 million inhabitants. According to national sources, the population within the wider Milan metropolitan area, also known as Greater Milan, is estimated between 7.5 million and 8.2 million, making it by far the largest metropolitan area in Italy and one of the largest in the EU. Milan is the economic capital of Italy, one of the economic capitals of Europe and a global financial center. Major cultural center, with museums and art galleries that include some of the most important collection. Milan is a leading alpha global city, with strengths in the fields of art, chemicals, commerce, design, education, entertainment, fashion, finance, healthcare, media communication, services, research, and tourism. Its business district hosts Italy's stock exchange Italian, Borsa Italiana, and the headquarters of national and international banks and companies. In terms of GDP, Milan is the wealthiest city in Italy, having also one of the largest economies among EU cities. Milan is viewed along with Turin as the southernmost part of the Blue Banana Urban Development Corridor, also known as the European megalopolis, and one of the four motors for Europe. Milan is a major international tourist destination, appearing among the most visited cities in the world, ranking second in Italy after Rome, fifth in Europe, and 16th in the world. Milan is as in the world, such as major works by Leonardo da Vinci. It also hosts numerous educational institutions, academies, and universities, with 11% of the national total of enrolled students. Founded around 590 BC under the name Medhelano by a Celtic tribe belonging to the Insubers group and belonging to the Golasica culture, it was conquered by the ancient Romans in 222 BC, who Latinized the name of the city into Mediolanum. The city's role as a major political center dates back to the late antiquity, when it served as the capital of the Western Roman Empire. From the 12th century until the 16th century, Milan was one of the largest European cities and a major trade and commercial center, as the capital of the Duchy of Milan, one of the greatest political, artistic and fashion forces in the Renaissance. Having become one of the main centers of the Italian Enlightenment during the early modern period, it then became one of the most active centers during the Restoration, until its entry into the unified Kingdom of Italy. From the 20th century onwards, Milan became the industrial and financial capital of Italy. Milan has been recognized as one of the world's 4 fashion capitals. Many of the most famous luxury fashion brands in the world have their headquarters in the city, including Armani, Prada, Versace, Valentino, Loro Piana and Zegna. It also hosts several international events and fairs, including Milan Fashion Week and the Milan Furniture Fair, which are among the world's biggest in terms of revenue, visitors and growth. The city is served by many luxury hotels and is the fifth most starred in the world by Michelin Guide. It hosted the Universal Exposition in 1906 and 2015. In the field of sports, Milan is home to two of Europe's most successful football teams, AC Milan and Inter Milan, and one of Europe's main basketball teams, Olimpia Milano. Milan will host the Winter Olympic and Paralympic Games for the first time in 2026, together with Cortina d'Ampezzo. Milan was founded with the Celtic name of Mediolanum, later Latinized by the ancient Romans into Mediolanum. In Celtic language, mediment middle, center, and the name element Lanonis, the Celtic equivalent of Latin lanum plain, meant settlement in the midst of the plain, or of place between watercourses, Celtic mede in the middle, central, land or land, given the presence of the Olona, Lambro, Seveso rivers, and the Nerone and Pudica streams. The Latin name Mediolanum comes from the Latin words medio in the middle and planus plain. However, some scholars believe that lanum comes from the Celtic root lan, meaning an enclosure or demarcated territory, source of the Welsh word lan, meaning a sanctuary or church, ultimately cognate to English-German land in which Celtic communities used to build shrines. Hence, Mediolanum could signify the central town or sanctuary of a Celtic tribe. Indeed, about 60 Gallo-Roman sites in France bore the name Mediolanum, for example, Saints Mediolanum Santonum and Evrieux, Mediolanum Olercorum. In addition, another theory links the name to the Scrofa Semilanuta Hafvuliso, an ancient emblem of the city, fancifully accounted for in Andrea Alcieto's Emblemata 1584, beneath a woodcut of the first raising of the city walls, where a boar is seen lifted from the excavation. And the etymology of Mediolanum given as Hafvul, explained in Latin and in French. According to this theory, the foundation of Milan is credited to two Celtic peoples, the Bicheriges and the Aedui, having as their emblems a ram and a boar. Therefore the city's symbol is a wool-bearing boar, an animal of double form, here with sharp bristles, there with sleek wool. Alcieto credits Ambrose for his account. Around 590 BC, a Celtic tribe belonging to the Insubers group and belonging to the Golaseca culture settled the city under the name Mediolanum. According to the legend reported by Livy writing between 27 and 9 BC, the Gaulish king Ambicatus sent his nephew Bellavessus into northern Italy at the head of a party drawn from various Gaulish tribes. Bellavessus allegedly founded the settlement in the times of the Roman monarchy, during the reign of Tarquinius Priscus. Tarquin is traditionally recorded as reigning from 616 to 579 BC, according to ancient Roman historian Titus Livy. Mediolano, in particular, was developed around a sanctuary, which was the oldest area of the village. The sanctuary, which consisted of a wooded area in the shape of an ellipse with a central clearing, was aligned according to precise astronomical points. For this reason, it was used for religious gatherings, especially in particular celebratory moments. The sanctuary of Mediolano was an ellipse with axis of 443 meters 1,453 feet and 323 meters 1,060 feet located near Piazza della Scala. The urban planning profile was based on these early paths, and on the shape of the sanctuary, reached, in some cases, up to the 19th century and even beyond. For example, the route of the modern Corso Vittorio Emanuele, Piazza del Duomo, Piazza Cordugio and Via Broletto, which is curvilinear, could correspond to the south side of the ellipse of the ancient sanctuary of Mediolano. One axis of the Mediolano sanctuary was aligned towards the heliacal rising of Antares, while the other towards the heliacal rising of Capella. The latter coincided with a Celtic spring festival celebrated on 24th March, while the heliacal rising of Antares corresponded with 11th November, which opened and closed the Celtic year, and which coincided with the point where the sun rose on the winter solstice. About 2 centuries after the creation of the Celtic sanctuary, the first residential settlements began to be built around it. Mediolano then transformed from a simple religious center to an urban and then military center, thus becoming a real village. The first homes were built just south of the Celtic sanctuary, near the modern Royal Palace of Milan. Subsequently, with the growth of the town centre, other important buildings for the Mediolanum community were built. First, a temple dedicated to the goddess Bellissima was built, which was located near the modern Milan Cathedral. Then, near the modern Via Moneta, which is located near today's Piazza San Sepolcro, a fortified building with military functions was built which was surrounded by a defensive moat. During the Roman Republic, the Romans, led by consul Gnaeus Cornelius Scipio Calvus, fought the Insubres and captured the settlement in 222 BC. The chief of the Insubres then submitted to Rome, giving the Romans control of the settlement. The Romans eventually conquered the entirety of the region, calling the new province Cisalpine Gaul Latin, Gallia Cisalpina Gaul this side of the Alps, and may have given the city its Latinized name of Mediolanum, in Gaulish mediumint middle. Center and the name element Lanones the Celtic equivalent of Latin planum plain, thus Mediolanum Latinized as Medionum meant settlement in the midst of the plain. Mediolanum became the most important center of Cisalpine Gaul and, in the wake of economic development, in 1949 BC, was elevated, within the Lex Rotia, to the status of municipium. The ancient Celtic settlement was, from a topographic point of view, superimposed and replaced by the Roman one. The Roman city was then gradually superimposed and replaced by the medieval one. The urban center of Milan has therefore grown constantly and rapidly until modern times around the first Celtic nucleus. The original Celtic toponym Mediolanum then changed, as evidenced by a graffiti in Celtic language present on a section of the Roman walls of Milan which dates back to a period following the Roman conquest of the Celtic village, in Messalino. In 286, the Roman Emperor Diocletian moved the capital of the Western Roman Empire from Rome to Mediolanum. Diocletian himself chose to reside at Nicomedia in the Eastern Empire, leaving his colleague Maximian at Milan. During the Augustan age, Mediolanum was famous for its schools. It possessed a theatre and an amphitheatre 129.5 by 109.3 meters, the third largest in Roman Italy after the Colosseum in Rome and the vast amphitheatre in Capua. A large stone wall encircled the city in Caesar's time, and later was expanded in the late 3rd century AD, by Maximian. Maximian built several gigantic monuments including the large Circus 470-85 meters and the Thermae or Baths of Hercules, a large complex of imperial palaces and other services and buildings of which few visible traces remain. Maximian increased the city area to 375 acres by surrounding it with a new, larger stone wall about 4.5 kilometers long with many 24-sided towers. The monumental area had twin towers. The one included later in the construction of the convent of San Maurizio Maggiore remains 16.6 m high. It was from Mediolanum that the Emperor Constantine issued what is now known as the Edict of Milan in AD 313, granting tolerance to all religions within the empire, thus paving the way for Christianity to become the dominant religion of the empire. Constantine was in Mediolanum to celebrate the wedding of his sister to the Eastern Emperor, Licinius. In 402, the Visigoths besieged the city and the Emperor Honorius moved the imperial residence to Ravenna. In 452, Attila besieged the city, but the real break with the city's imperial past came in 539, during the Gothic War, when Uras, a nephew of Vitiges, formerly king of the Italian Ostrogoths, carried out attacks in Milan, with losses, according to Procopius, being about 300,000 men. The Lombards took Ticinum as their capital in 570 to renaming it Papia, the modern Pavia, and left early medieval Milan to the governance of its archbishops. After the siege of the city by the Visigoths in 402, the imperial residence moved to Ravenna. Attila, king of the Huns, sacked and devastated the city in 452 AD. In 539 the Ostrogoths conquered and destroyed Milan during the Gothic War against Byzantine Emperor Justinian I. In the summer of 569 the Lombards, from whom the name of the Italian region Lombardy derives, conquered Milan, overpowering the small Byzantine garrison left for its defense. Some Roman structures remained in use in Milan under Lombard rule. Milan surrendered to Charlemagne, and the Franks in 774. The 11th century saw a reaction against the control of the Holy Roman Emperors. City-states emerged in northern Italy, an expression of the new political power of the cities and their will to fight against all feudal powers. Milan was no exception. It did not take long, however, for the Italian city-states to begin fighting each other to try to limit neighboring powers. The Milanese destroyed Lodi and continuously warred with Pavia, Cremona and Como, who in turn asked Frederick I Barbarossa for help. In a sally they captured Empress Beatrice and forced her to ride a donkey backward through the city until getting out. Frederick I Barbarossa brought the destruction of much of Milan in 1162. A period of peace followed and Milan prospered as a center of trade due to its geographical position. During this time, the city was considered one of the largest European cities. As a result of the independence that the Lombard cities gained in the Peace of Constance in 1183, Milan returned to the commune form of local government first established in the 11th century. In 1395, Gian Galeazzo Visconti became the first Duke of Milan upon receiving the title from Wenceslaus, King of the Romans. In 1447, Filippo Maria Visconti, Duke of Milan, died without a male heir. Following the end of the Visconti line, the Ambrosian Republic was established. It took its name from Saint Ambrose, the popular patron saint of the city. Both the Guelph and the Ghibelline factions worked together to bring about the Ambrosian Republic in Milan. Nonetheless, the Republic collapsed when, in 1450, Milan was conquered by Francesco I of the House of Sforza, which made Milan one of the leading cities of the Italian Renaissance. Under the House of Sforza, Milan experienced a period of great prosperity, which in particular saw the development of mulberry cultivation and silk processing. Following this economic growth, works such as the Sforza Castle already existing in the Visconti era under the name of Porta Giovia Castle, but readapted, enlarged and completed by the Sforza family and the Ospedale Maggiore were completed. The Sforzas also managed to attract to Milan personalities such as Leonardo da Vinci, who redesigned and improved the function of the Navigli and painted the Last Supper, and Bramante, who worked on the Church of Santa Maria presso San Satiro. On the Basilica of Sant'Ambrogio, and to the Church of Santa Maria delle Grazie, influencing the development of the Lombard Renaissance. Milan's last independent ruler, Lodovico il Moro, requested the aid of Charles VIII of France against the other Italian states, eventually unleashing the Italian Wars. The king's cousin, Louis of Orleans, took part in the expedition and realized most of Italy was virtually defenseless. This prompted him to come back a few years later in 1500 and claim the Duchy of Milan for himself, his grandmother having been a member of the ruling Visconti family. At that time, Milan was also defended by Swiss mercenaries. After the victory of Louis' successor Francois I over the Swiss at the Battle of Marignan, the duchy was promised to the French king Francois I. When the Spanish Habsburg Emperor Charles V defeated Francois I at the Battle of Pavia in 1525, northern Italy, which included Milan, passed to Habsburg Spain. In 1556, Charles V abdicated in favor of his son Philip II and his brother Ferdinand I. Charles' Italian possessions, including Milan, passed to Philip II and remained with the Spanish line of Habsburgs, while Ferdinand's Austrian line of Habsburgs ruled the Holy Roman Empire. The Great Plague of Milan in 1629-31, that claimed the lives of an estimated 60,000 people out of a population of 130,000, caused unprecedented devastation in the city and was effectively described by Alessandro Manzoni in his masterpiece The Betrothed. This episode was seen by many as the symbol of Spanish bad rule and decadence and is considered one of the last outbreaks of the centuries-long pandemic of plague that began with the Black Death. In 1700, the Spanish line of Habsburgs was extinguished with the death of Charles II. After his death, the War of the Spanish Succession began in 1701. In 1706, the French were defeated in Ramillies and Turin and were forced to yield northern Italy to the Austrian Habsburgs. In 1713-1714 the treaties of Utrecht and Rastatt formally confirmed Austrian sovereignty over most of Habsburg Spain's Italian possessions including Lombardy and its capital, Milan. Napoleon invaded Italy in 1796, and Milan was declared capital of the Cisalpine Republic. Later, he declared Milan capital of the Kingdom of Italy and was crowned King of Italy in the cathedral. After Napoleon's occupation ended, the Congress of Vienna returned Lombardy and Milan to Austrian control in 1815. On 18 March 1848, Milan effectively rebelled against Austrian rule during the so-called 5 days Italian Les Cinq Giornate that forced Field Marshal Radetzky to temporarily withdraw from the city. The bordering Kingdom of Piedmont, Sardinia sent troops to protect the insurgents and organized a plebiscite that ratified by a huge majority the unification of Lombardy with Piedmont, Sardinia. But just a few months later the Austrians were able to send fresh forces that routed the Piedmontese army at the Battle of Custoza on 24 July and to reassert Austrian control over northern Italy. About 10 years later, however, Italian nationalist politicians, officers and intellectuals such as Cavour, Garibaldi and Mazzini were able to gather a huge consensus and to pressure the monarchy to forge an alliance with the new French Empire of Napoleon III to defeat Austria and establish a large Italian state in the region. At the Battle of Solferino in 1859, French and Italian troops heavily defeated the Austrians that retreated under the Quadrilateral line. Following this battle, Milan and the rest of Lombardy were incorporated into Piedmont Sardinia, which then proceeded to annex all the other Italian statelets and proclaim the birth of the Kingdom of Italy on 17 March 1861. The political unification of Italy enhanced Milan's economic dominance over northern Italy. A dense rail network, whose construction had started under Austrian patronage, was completed in a brief time, making Milan the rail hub of northern Italy, and, with the opening of the Gotthard 1882 and Simplon 1906 railway tunnels, the major South European rail hub for goods and passenger transport. Indeed, Milan and Venice were among the main stops of the Orient Express that started operating from 1990. Abundant hydroelectric resources allowed the development of a strong steel and textile sector, and as Milanese banks dominated Italy's financial sphere, the city became the country's leading financial center. In May 1898, Milan was shaken by the Bava Beccaris massacre, a riot related to soaring cost of living. Milan's northern location in Italy closer to Europe secured also a leading role for the city on the political scene. It was in Milan that Benito Mussolini built his political and journalistic careers, and his fascist black shirts rallied for the first time in the city's Piazza San Sepolcro. Here the future fascist dictator launched his march on Rome on 28 October 1922. During the Second World War, Milan's large industrial and transport facilities suffered extensive damage from Allied bombings that often also hit residential districts. When Italy surrendered in 1943, German forces occupied and plundered most of northern Italy, fueling the birth of a massive resistance guerrilla movement. On 29 April 1945, the American 1st Armored Division was advancing on Milan, but, before it arrived, the Italian resistance seized control of the city and executed Mussolini along with his mistress and several regime officers, that were later hanged and exposed in Piazza Loreto, where 1 year before some resistance members had been executed. During the post-war economic boom, the reconstruction effort, and the Italian economic miracle attracted a large wave of internal migration, especially from rural areas of southern Italy to Milan. The population grew from 1.3 million in 1951 to 1.7 million in 1967. During this period, Milan was rapidly rebuilt, with the construction of several innovative and modernist skyscrapers, such as the Torre Velasca and the Pirelli Tower, that soon became the symbols of this new era of prosperity. The economic prosperity was, however, overshadowed in the late 1960s and early 1970s during the so-called years of lead, when Milan witnessed an unprecedented wave of street violence, labor strikes and political terrorism. The apex of this period of turmoil occurred on 12 December 1969, when a bomb exploded at the National Agrarian Bank in Piazza Fontana, killing 17 people and injuring 88. In the 1980s, with the international success of Milanese houses like Armani, Prada, Versace, Moschino and Dolce & Gabbana, Milan became one of the world's fashion capitals. The city saw also a marked rise in international tourism, notably from America and Japan, while the stock exchange increased its market capitalization more than fivefold. This period led the mass media to nickname the metropolis Milano da beer, literally Milan to be drunk. But in the 1990s, Milan was badly affected by Tangentopoli, a political scandal in which many politicians and businessmen were tried for corruption. The city was also affected by a severe financial crisis and a steady decline in textiles, automobile and steel production. Berlusconi's Milan No. 2 and Milan No. 3 projects were the most important housing projects of the 1980s and 1990s in Milan and brought to the city new economical and social energy. In the early 21st century, Milan underwent a series of sweeping redevelopments over huge former industrial areas. Two new business districts, Porta Nuova and City Life, were built in the space of a decade, radically changing the skyline of the city. Its exhibition center moved to a much larger site in Rome. The long decline in traditional manufacturing has been overshadowed by a great expansion of publishing, finance, banking, fashion design, information technology, logistics and tourism. The city's decades-long population decline seems to have partially reverted in recent years, as the commune gained about 100,000 new residents since the last census. The successful rebranding of the city as a global capital of innovation has been instrumental in its successful bids for hosting large international events such as 2015 Expo and 2026 Winter Olympics. Milan is located in the northwestern section of the Po Valley, approximately halfway between the river Po to the south and the foothills of the Alps, with the Great Lakes Lake Como, Lake Maggiore and Lake Lugano to the north, the Ticino River to the west and the Adda to the east. The city's land is flat, the highest point being at 122 meters (400.26 feet) above sea level. The administrative commune covers an area of about 181 square kilometers (70 sq mi), with a population, in 2013, of 1,324,169 and a population density of 7,315 inhabitants per square kilometer, 18,950 sq mi. The metropolitan city of Milan covers 1,575 square kilometers, 608 sq mi, and in 2015 had a population estimated at 3,196,825, with a resulting density of 2,029 inhabitants per square kilometer. A larger urban area, comprising parts of the provinces of Milan, Monza e Brianza, Como, Lecco and Varese, is 1,891 square kilometers, 730 sq mi wide and has a population of 5.27 million with a density of 2,783 inhabitants per square kilometer, 7,210 sq mi. The concentric layout of the city center reflects the Navigli, an ancient system of navigable and interconnected canals, now mostly covered. The suburbs of the city have expanded mainly to the north, swallowing up many comuni along the roads towards Varese, Como, Lecco and Bergamo. In the 21st century, the Navigli region of Milan is a highly active area with a large number of residential units, bars and restaurants. It is also a well-known center for artists. Milan features a mid-latitude, four-season humid subtropical climate CFA, according to the Köppen climate classification. Milan's climate is similar to much of northern Italy's inland plains, with hot, humid summers and cold, foggy winters. The Alps and Apennine Mountains form a natural barrier that protects the city from the major circulations coming from northern Europe and the sea. During winter, daily average temperatures can fall below freezing 0 degrees Celsius (32 degrees Fahrenheit) and accumulations of snow can occur. The historic average of Milan's area is 25 centimeters (10 in) the period between 1961 and 1990, with a record of 90 centimeters 35 in January 1985. In the suburbs, the average can reach 36 centimeters 14 inches. The city receives on average 7 days of snow per year. The city was often shrouded in thick cloud or fog during winter, although the removal of rice paddies from the southern neighborhoods and the urban heat island effect have greatly reduced this occurrence since the turn of the 21st century. Occasionally, the Foyhan winds cause the temperatures to rise unexpectedly. On 22nd January 2012, the daily high reached 16 degrees Celsius 61 degrees Fahrenheit, while on 22nd February 2012 it reached 21 degrees Celsius 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Air pollution levels rise significantly in wintertime when cold air clings to the soil, causing Milan to be one of Europe's most polluted cities. Summers in Milan are hot and humidity levels are high, with peak temperatures reaching above 35 degrees Celsius 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Due to the high humidity, urban heat effect and lack of wind, night times often remain muggy during the summer months. Usually the summer enjoys clearer skies, with an average of more than 13 hours of daylight. When precipitation occurs, though, it is more likely to be accompanied by thunderstorms and hail. Springs and autumns are generally pleasant, with temperatures ranging between 10 and 20 degrees Celsius 50 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. These seasons are characterized by higher rainfall, especially in April and May. Relative humidity typically ranges between 45% comfortable and 95% very humid throughout the year, rarely dropping below 27% dry and reaching as high as 100%. Wind is generally absent. Over the course of the year, typical wind speeds vary from 0 to 14 km/h, 0 to 9 miles per hour, calm to gentle breeze, rarely exceeding 29 km/h, 18 miles per hour, fresh breeze, except during summer thunderstorms when winds can blow strong. In the spring, gale force windstorms may happen, generated either by tramontane blowing from the Alps or by Bora-like winds from the north. Due to its geographic location surrounded by mountains on three sides, Milan is among the least windy cities in Europe. The architectural and artistic presence in Milan represents one of the attractions of the Lombard capital. Milan has been among the most important Italian centers in the history of architecture, has made important contributions to the development of art history, and has been the cradle of a number of modern art movements. There are only few remains of the ancient Roman city, notably the well-preserved Colonna di San Lorenzo. During the second half of the 4th century, Saint Ambrose, as Bishop of Milan, had a strong influence on the layout of the city, reshaping the center. Although the cathedral and baptistry built in Roman times are now lost, and building the great basilicas at the city gates, Sant'Ambrogio, San Nazzo in Brolo, San Simpliciano and Sant'Eustorgio, which still stand, refurbished over the centuries, as some of the finest and most important churches in Milan. Milan's cathedral, built between 1386 and 1877, is the largest church in the Italian Republic. The larger St. Peter's Basilica is in the state of Vatican City, a sovereign state, and the third largest in the world, as well as the most important example of Gothic architecture in Italy. The gilt bronze statue of the Virgin Mary, placed in 1774 on the highest pinnacle of the Duomo, soon became one of the most enduring symbols of Milan. In the 15th century, when the Sforza ruled the city, an old Viscontine fortress was enlarged and embellished to become the Castello Sforzesco, the seat of an elegant Renaissance court surrounded by a walled hunting park. Notable architects involved in the project included the Florentine Filaret, who was commissioned to build the high central entrance tower, and the military specialist Bartolomeo Gadio. The alliance between Francesco Sforza and Florence Cosimo di Medici bore to Milan Tuscan models of Renaissance architecture, apparent in the Ospedale Maggiore and Bramante's work in the city, which includes Santa Maria presso San Satiro, a reconstruction of a small 9th century church, the Tribune of Santa Maria delle Grazie, and 3 cloisters for Sant'Ambrogio. The Counter-Reformation in the 16th to 17th centuries was also the period of Spanish domination and was marked by 2 powerful figures, Saint Charles Borromeo and his cousin, Cardinal Federico Borromeo. Not only did they impose themselves as moral guides to the people of Milan, but they also gave a great impulse to culture with the creation of the Biblioteca Ambrosiana in a building designed by Francesco Maria Ricciani and the nearby Pincoteca Ambrosiana. Many notable churches and Baroque mansions were built in the city during this period by the architects Pellegrino Tibaldi, Galeazzo Alesi and Ricciani himself. Empress Maria Theresa of Austria was responsible for the significant renovations carried out in Milan during the 18th century. This urban and artistic renewal included the establishment of Teatro alla Scala, inaugurated in 1778, and the renovation of the Royal Palace. The late 1700s Palazzo Belgio by Giuseppe Piermarini and Royal Villa of Milan by Leopoldo Pollack. Later the official residence of Austrian viceroys, are often regarded among the best examples of neoclassical architecture in Lombardy. The Napoleonic rule of the city in 1805-1814, having established Milan as the capital of a satellite kingdom of Italy, took steps to reshape it accordingly to its new status, with the construction of large boulevards. New squares Porta Ticinese by Luigi Cagnola and Foro Bonaparte by Giovanni Antonio Antolini, and cultural institutions Art Gallery and the Academy of Fine Arts. The massive Arch of Peace, situated at the bottom of Corso Sempione, is often compared to the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. In the second half of the 19th century, Milan quickly became the main industrial center of the new Italian nation, drawing inspiration from the great European capitals that were hubs of the Second Industrial Revolution. The great Galleria Vittorio Emanuele II, realized by Giuseppe Mengoni between 1865 and 1877 to celebrate Vittorio Emanuele II, is a covered passage with a glass and cast iron roof, inspired by the Burlington Arcade in London. Several other arcades such as the Galleria del Corso, built between 1923 and 1931, complement it. Another late 19th century eclectic monument in the city is the Cimitero Monumentale graveyard, built in a neo-Romanesque style between 1863 and 1866. The tumultuous period of early 20th century brought several radical innovations in Milanese architecture. Art Nouveau, also known as Liberty in Italy, is recognizable in Palazzo Castiglione, built by architect Giuseppe Sommaruga between 1901 and 1903. Other examples include Hotel Corso, Casa Guazzoni with its wrought iron and staircase, and Berimerigali House. The latter built in a traditional Milanese Art Nouveau style combined with elements of Neo-Romanesque and Gothic Revival architecture, regarded as one of the last such types of architecture in the city. A new, more eclectic form of architecture can be seen in buildings such as Castello Cova, built the 1910s in a distinctly neo-medieval style, evoking the architectural trends of the past. An important example of Art Deco, which blended such styles with fascist architecture, is the huge Central Railway Station inaugurated in 1931. The post-World War II period saw rapid reconstruction and fast economic growth, accompanied by a nearly twofold increase in population. In the 1950s and 1960s, a strong demand for new residential and commercial areas drove to extreme urban expansion that has produced some of the major milestones in the city's architectural history, including Gio Ponti's Pirelli Tower 1956-60, Velasca Tower 1956-58, and the creation of brand new residential satellite towns, as well as huge amounts of low-quality public housings. In recent years, the industrialization, urban decay and gentrification led to a vast urban renewal of former industrial areas that have been transformed into modern residential and financial districts, notably Porta Nuova in downtown Milan and Firamilano in the suburb of Rome. In addition, the old exhibition area is being completely reshaped according to the City Life Regeneration Project, featuring residential areas, museums, an urban park and 3 skyscrapers designed by international architects, and after whom they are named. The 202-meter 663-foot Isozaki Arta, when completed, the tallest building in Italy, the Twisted Hadid Tower, and the curved Libeskind Tower. 2 business districts dominate Milan's skyline: Porta Nuova in the northeast boroughs number 9 and 2 and City Life borough number 8 in the northwest part of the commune. The tallest buildings include the Unicredit Tower at 231 meters, though only 162 meters without the spire, and the 209 meters Allianz Tower, a 50-story tower. The official estimated population of the city of Milan was 1,417,597 as of 31st December 2023, according to the municipality's statistical office. Mid-2024 estimates suggest that 3,251,166 people lived in Milan province-level municipality. The population of Milan today is lower than its historical peak. With rapid industrialization in post-war years, the population of Milan peaked at 1,743,427 in 1973. Thereafter, during the following decades, about one-third of the population moved to the outer belt of suburbs and new satellite settlements that grew around the city proper. Today, Milan's conurbation extends well beyond the borders of the city proper and of its special status provincial authority. Its contiguous built-up urban area was home to 5.27 million people in 2015, while its wider metropolitan area, the largest in Italy and fourth largest in the EU, is estimated to have a population of more than 8.2 million. As of 2023, some 301,149 foreign residents lived in the municipality of Milan, representing 21.2% of the total resident population. These figures suggest that the immigrant population has more than doubled in the last 15 years. After World War II, Milan experienced two main waves of immigration. The first, dating from the 1950s to the early 1970s, saw a large influx of migrants from poorer and rural areas within Italy. The second, starting from the late 1980s, has been characterized by the preponderance of foreign-born immigrants. The early period coincided with the so-called Italian economic miracle of post-war years, an era of extraordinary growth based on rapid industrial expansion and great public works, that brought to the city a large influx of over 400,000 people, mainly from rural and underdeveloped southern Italy. Decades of continuing high immigration have made the city one of the most cosmopolitan and multicultural in Italy. Immigrants came mainly from Africa, in particular Eritreans, Egyptians, Moroccans, Senegalese and Nigerian, and the former socialist countries of Eastern Europe, notably Albanians, Romanians, Ukrainians, Macedonians, Moldovans and Russians. In addition to a growing number of Asians, in particular Chinese, Sri Lankans and Filipinos, and Latin Americans, mainly South Americans. At the beginning of the 1990s, Milan already had a population of foreign-born residents of approximately 58,000 or 4% of the then population, that rose rapidly to over 117,000 by. Milan is home to the second largest Far East Asian community in Europe after Paris, with the Philippines and China making up about a quarter of its foreign population, around 76,000 out of 301,000 in 2023. Milan is home to the second largest Far East Asian community in Europe after Paris, with the Philippines and China making up about a quarter of its. Milan notably hosts the oldest and largest along with Proto-Chinese community in Italy, with around 37,000 people in 2023, excluding Italians of Chinese descent such as immigrants who have acquired Italian citizenship or their descendants. Another 4,000 foreigners come from other East Asian countries. Notably, Milan hosts more than 2,000 Japanese nationals and 1,000 Koreans, excluding those who also hold Italian citizenship. Foreigners holding East Asian citizenship thus make up around 5.36% of the city's population. Milan notably hosts the oldest and largest along with Proto-Chinese community in Italy, with around 37,000 people in 2023. Excluding Italians of Chinese descent such as immigrants who have acquired Italian citizenship or their descendants. Situated in the 8th district, and centered on Via Paolo Serpi, an important commercial avenue, the Milanese Chinatown was originally established in the 1920s by immigrants from Wencheng County, in the Zhejiang, and used to operate small textile and leather workshops. Milan also hosts a Japanese international school as well as various Chinese schools throughout the city. The city also hosts an historical African community originating from the Horn of Africa. As of 2023, there were around 4,000 Eritrean, Ethiopian or Somali-born people living in Milan, the overwhelming majority being double citizens of Italy, and not counting second and third generation migrants. The three countries were all Italian colonies at a time, from 1869 Eritrea to 1943 East African Campaign. Due to the historical links with Italy, a small community originating from the Horn of Africa has established its presence near Porta Venezia district starting from the 1970s. It is estimated that in the Asmarina area Little Asmara there are around 2,000 to 2,500 people from the Horn of Africa still living there, along with multiple restaurants, institutes as well as an Ethiopian church. Another notable area with a large presence of foreign residents coming from a specific country is the so-called Quadrilatero di San Siro or San Siro Kasbah, in reference to the large Arab-speaking population living in the area. The neighborhood, consisting of around 6,000 municipal flats, is characterized by the fact of having an estimated 25% share of Arab-speaking inhabitants, mostly hailing from Egypt. The area has often been described as a banlieue within Milan, and has historically had a higher crime rate than the rest of the city. Nevertheless, in recent years many projects have been presented so as to mitigate the marginalization of its inhabitants. Other areas hosting large Arabic-speaking populations include Messicini Boneti, Corvetto, Comazzina and Piazza Arco. Milan has a substantial English-speaking community, around 4,500 US citizens, British, Irish and Australian expatriates, excluding double citizens, and several English schools and English-language publications, such as Hello Milano, Where Milano and Easy Milano. Milan's population, like that of Italy as a whole, is mostly Catholic. It is the seat of the Archdiocese of Milan. Greater Milan is also home to Protestant, Eastern Orthodox, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Sikh and Buddhist communities. Milan has been a Christian-majority city since the late Roman Empire. Its religious history was marked by the figure of Saint Ambrose, whose heritage includes the Ambrosian Rite Italian Rito Ambrosiano, used by some 5 million Catholics in the greater part of the Archdiocese of Milan, which consider the largest in Europe. The rite varies slightly from the canonical Roman Rite liturgy, with differences in the Mass. Liturgical year Lent starts 4 days later than in the Roman Rite. Baptism, rite of funerals, priest clothes and sacred music use of the Ambrosian chant rather than Gregorian. In addition, the city is home to the largest Orthodox community in Italy. Lombardy is the seat of at least 78 Orthodox parishes and monasteries, the vast majority of them located in the area of Milan. The main Romanian Orthodox Church in Milan is the Catholic Church of Our Lady of Victory Chiesa di Santa Maria della Vittoria, currently granted for use to the local Romanian community. Similarly, the point of reference for the followers of the Russian Orthodox Church is the Catholic Church of San Vito in Pasquarolo. The Jewish community of Milan is the second largest in Italy after Rome, with about 10,000 members, mainly Sephardi. The main city synagogue, Hechel David Mordechai Temple, was built by architect Luca Beltrami in 1892 and is also the community's main headquarters, is located in Via della Guastella. The interior was renovated in 1997. Milan hosts also one of the largest Muslim communities in Italy, and the city saw the construction of the country's first new mosque featuring a dome and minaret, since the destruction of the ancient mosques of Lucera in the year 1300. In 2014, the city council agreed on the construction of a new mosque amid bitter political debate, since it is strenuously opposed by right-wing parties such as the Northern League. As of 2018, the Muslim population is estimated at 9% of the city's population. Currently, accurate statistics on the Hindu and Sikh presence in Milan metro area are not available. However, various sources estimate that about 40% of the total Indian population living in Italy, or about 50,000 individuals, reside in Lombardy, where a number of Hindu and Sikh temples exist, and where they form the largest such communities in Europe after the ones in Britain. Whereas Rome is Italy's political and cultural capital, Milan is the country's industrial and financial heart, being the economic capital of Italy, and it is a global financial center as well. Milan is considered, together with London, Hamburg, Frankfurt, Munich and Paris, one of the 6 European economic capitals. Milan is one of the wealthiest cities in Italy. Milan and Lombardy had a nominal GDP of 195 billion euros, $205 billion, and 480 euros. $6,505 billion, respectively, in 2023, being roughly double the GDP of EU countries such as Greece, Hungary or Portugal, and being similar to the Irish or Austrian ones. The province of Milan generates approximately 10% of the national GDP, while the economy of the Lombardy region generates approximately 19.5% of Italy's GDP, or an estimated 481 billion euros in 2023, roughly the size of Belgium. The city is a member of the Blue Banana Corridor and of the 4 Motors for Europe among Europe's economic leaders. Milan's hinterland is Italy's largest industrial area, and its GDP per capita of about 61,200 euros in 2021, $64,300 ranks among Italy's highest.